What is up, people of the internet? I am Pastor Alex here, and today is the start of our very first lesson sermon series. So in lieu of live streams, for our 90-day sabbatical, we are actually going to be releasing 2 videos a month. I'm looking at my associate pastor to confirm. But yes, we are going to be doing 2 videos a month, and they're going to be on various topics. So I typically have more of a, scholar type approach, and then so you're going to be bombarded with some information. Today's topic is going to be about the afterlife. I'm looking down here at my notes. Before we get started, though, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things. That way you are staying in the loop, because everything is going to be hub-oriented on our website. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the afterlife. And I want to ask you a question first, so make sure you respond in the comments. But the question is, when I ask you what happens after we die, what comes to mind? So I want you to think about this. When you die, what comes to mind? Most people think they die, they go either heaven, hell, depending on whether you believed in Jesus and followed every single commandment, or if you didn't believe, even though you were a good person and all these other things, that you go straight into hell and you get burnt to death for eternity. That's usually what people think of. But I'm going to kind of blow your minds a little bit. Now, this is where I get to the disclaimer part. So the disclaimer is, this is my opinion. This is based out of deep biblical studies and prayer, and it's not something that I expect everyone to agree with, because it could be considered controversial, because going against the tradition and the norm and what everybody has been taught, and they hear it from the pulpit all the time. But if you dig deeper into the Bible, you'll see that there isn't a cohesive answer to the heaven and hell concept. So, with that disclaimer in mind, keep in mind this is not a salvation issue. So whether you believe you go straight to heaven, straight to hell, it is not salvation oriented. There is only one thing about salvation, and here is the key. You're going to look at John 3:16. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life." That is the key. That is the salvation key. So what I'm about to say, even if you disagree, is not based on salvation. So what do I believe? I'm going to start with the concept of hell. I'm not going to go super deep into that, because that could be a video in and of itself. But there are 4 words in the modern English translation that have been mistranslated into the word hell. One of those is what we're going to talk about today, and that is Sheol. Sheol is a Hebrew word that, like I said, was translated into hell, but it actually means the grave. The grave is where, in the ancient times, they believed that everyone ended up there. So it didn't matter what you did in life, how good of a person you were, what you believed, every single person ended up in Sheol. Now, Sheol is kind of like a state of sleep, a state of rest, like an in-between sort of consciousness. And to understand more about this, you would look at the Book of Enoch. So in the canon, or the Bible that we have, it does not have the Book of Enoch. You could research about how that got created in the first place. But the Book of Enoch was an influential book in the time period of the Second Temple in Judaism. It was the apocryphal text. It was highly respected, widely read, and they even found fragments of it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Interestingly enough, Jesus' teachings resemble those that are found in that book. So what does the Book of Enoch have to do with Sheol or the afterlife? Well, in this time period, this was the prevailing belief. There was the belief that when you die, you go to Sheol, and there's 4 chambers in Sheol. Notice there's like a 4 thing that's going on here. So, in the 4 chambers, the first one that you would be kind of like divvied up in would be the righteous, or where the peaceful, it's like a peaceful waiting. but this is where the righteous go. So those who lived righteously, who are there, end up in a pleasant area, and they're waiting this resurrection. There's a reward, okay? And keep in mind, this belief was predating Jesus, before his ministry came about. Then you've got number 2, which is the moderately righteous, which there is some distress here. And this is where those who were not wicked but still missed the mark, they remain in like a separate area. They're awaiting this judgment of sorts. And then number 3 is the wicked, and this is where suffering and they're kind of awaiting judgment. There is, so the spirits of the wicked, they suffer torment as they wait for their final fate. And then you've got number 4, which is for the extremely wicked. This is like severe punishment. This is for those who committed like really, really bad sins, missing the mark, and they suffer like an even greater torment, knowing they are doomed. They're never going to be able to receive that eternal life in the resurrection of Christ. And for further reading, you can go to 1 Enoch chapter 22, breaks it all down there, and I'm pretty much quoting what is said there. So then the next question, what about Jesus? What happens once he comes, right? So Jesus is going to come, and he's going to raise all the dead out of Sheol. And this sorting is going to happen at the time of judgment. We read about that in Revelation. So there's kind of like 3 sort of steps that I'm going to talk about of what I believe happens. The first one is those who followed Jesus or believed in him, they observed his teachings, and they're going to be welcomed into like this new Jerusalem, heaven on earth, gated city sort of thing. Think like a mirror of the Garden of Eden. Like this is like an oasis. This is a place where there's no death, no hurting, no pain. And so this is where people who have followed his teachings, followed Jesus and believed in him, they'll all end up there. And again, that is in Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 4. So that's like the first, type of people are going to end up in that. Then you have the second part. So those who do good deeds, however, they never accepted Jesus. Jesus, you're not going to be allowed into this New Jerusalem, because if you never wanted anything to do with him, you're not going to be like forced on that invite, right? So they will be outside the gates in what's called the outer darkness. It is a place that is separated from God, but they can still see like the party that's happening in heaven. They recognized that they're going to be missing out. There's going to be a sense of regret. You can find that in Matthew chapter 8, verses 11 through 12, and chapter 22, verse 13. It's like the opposite of the New Jerusalem. The word outer darkness, really in its original translation, is talking about missing out of a party. Like they can see the lights from afar and they're missing out. But it's not like eternal torture. It's just, they're not in the party. They didn't want to be part of the party, so they're not going to be in the party. Then you have the third one, which is the one that a lot of people use as a reason for this hellfire brimstone theology, and that is the lake of fire. So the lake of fire is also found in Revelation 21, but that's verse 8. But it's those who reject Jesus and do horrible deeds such as like genocide, murder, abuse, they end up here. And there is this eternal fire. There will be torturing forever, but there is a very specific concept of this. They are going to be in league with the enemy. They are going to be doing these horrible, horrible things that is a natural understanding of this, these missing the marks. It's more than just missing the marks. They are murderers. They are child abusers. They are all these things that are in league with the enemy. So that was a lot, and I recognize that. So I kind of drew a little a little thing, but you've got the New Jerusalem here. you got the outer gates, and then you got the outer darkness, and then over here you have the lake of fire. I'm trying to make sure I get it in with the camera. The lake of fire really isn't known exactly where it is in the realm of where stuff is. I don't know the map, but I kind of made it. It's away from everything else. But the new earth, you've got outer darkness, New Jerusalem, and that's kind of the concept. But it's a little different than the traditional approach of hellfire damnation. There is a little bit more nuance, new like gray areas, and I'd be happy to go into a deeper study on this at a later time. But leave a comment, ask questions. I'd love to talk to you about it more, and with that, we'll see you next time. Bye.